of different levels. All right, now back to Chapter 7. So Chapter 7, we're going to continue on our statistics front, and so we're going to start with regression. Now regression is just trying to figure out the relationship between two different variables. So this is a simple regression. We have our, figure out which tool I want to use. We have our x-axis here, our y-axis here. We've got all these little blue data points everywhere. And you can see they're scattered all over. So if we want to predict anything in the future, we need to draw this regression line here. So we need to calculate what is that relationship between these two variables. So I asked you guys, what is the information that you need when we're looking at pay rates? So remember the pay structure exercise. So what is this? Whoops, I keep forgetting to do my pins. What is this? That's your internal job structure. So we went through our job analysis, job descriptions, job evaluation, did a point method exercise. So we go through that whole thing where we're trying to figure out what makes sense in our organization. So one thing we need are job evaluation points. We need to know what our internal structure is. And then what we're trying to do is to assign, to figure out how does our internal structure play with the external structure. So the other data point you need is salary. All right, here I have written down that this is a market pay line. We're going to talk more about this. I'm going to use my Excel spreadsheet so we can talk more about this. That means that this is the external market pay from our salary survey. So here we're going to look at our salary survey data, and we're going to compare that to our benchmark jobs. We're going to draw that regression line, and then we'll be able to see how we're doing compared to the market, and does it make sense for us. We still have to be strategic for us. What jobs have more value? We're going to do what's called job leveling. So when we look at those benchmark jobs, as we talked about in the beginning of the chapter, sometimes our job title is the same as somebody else's job title, but the job description may vary. So we may have more responsibilities, so we need to do some job leveling, meaning we need to make those apples to apples versus two really completely separate jobs. So let's flip over. Let's see if I want to do this first. Yeah, so what is that market pay line? So again, that market pay line represents that typical market pay rates expressed as the mean or median relative to our own internal job structure. So let's go to the Excel spreadsheet for a second. So if we go back to our job evaluation exercise, so we have these jobs over here. Remember the production tech, administrative assistant, the staff nurse, systems analyst, these jobs here. So you guys went through and you evaluated each of these job descriptions based on our job evaluation guide, that rubric where we looked at those compensable factors and you assigned point values. So here is the internal annual salary. This is what we pay for these different jobs. This is the external. So this is looking at the salary survey. How much does the market pay for these jobs? So I have put that in a chart here. So we have our internal job evaluation points here. So that's what this is. We're looking at our internal structure. This is our annual salary. So that's both our internal annual salary, how much we pay, but also the external annual salary. What is the market paying? So internal are the orange dots, external, the blue dots. All right. So these are regression lines calculated in Excel. And For the orange line, that's our internal. So this is our internal structure, our internal salaries. Here's that line, the regression line, and here we have R squared. So that's the other question that's here is what is R squared? What does that mean? Well, that is correlation. And correlation is the relationship between the two variables. So, and it ranges from 0 to 1. 0 says there's no correlation. They are not related at all. 1 says they are 100% related. You can absolutely 100% predict one based off of the other. But it's those things in the middle. So if you have this, so here we are comparing our internal structure, so the blue line, our internal structure to the external market pay. Here the R squared is 0.42. What does that mean? It means that 42% of the variation in market pay rates can be explained by our own internal job structure. So that's a mediocre correlation. It's not great. So that means we're pretty far off of the market in some areas. So let's look at that a little bit more detail. These are the regression lines. This is the formula for the regression line. Y equals, right, 46.75x plus 27,187. So 27,187 is what's called the y-intercept. So that's the dollar value if we had 0 job evaluation points. Then what's that? 46.75 is the slope of the line. So what we're saying is for each job evaluation point, the slope is going to be $46.75. So that's what we're talking about. So if we go back to Chapter 6 and the crunch the numbers exercise that we did here, remember we had job evaluation points and we had the average market rates, and then we tried to, that was what this is, dollar per point. Well, that's the slope of this line, dollar per point. All right, so you can see that in the external market, this slope of this line is less than the slope of this line, of our internal line. What we're going to want to do is to predict Y by putting in points. So if we're looking at staff nurse, we have 165 points. We come up here, we can see this is how much we're paying for internally, this is the external. These are the things that compensation analysts need to be looking at. And you know, our internal structure, you can see the markets all over the place. We do pretty well down at the lower levels. And in fact, our line, our regression line is higher, saying we pay, I'm sorry, the market is up higher. So the market's paying higher at those lower point jobs. Once we get higher, though, into the higher point values, that's where we start paying more. So especially this job right here, which is the coordinator of emergency services. So we need to look at that and figure out, is that accurate? Are we doing a good job in terms of matching the market? Are we paying too much? Do we have the wrong job title? Should our to match with the job description? Should we do some job leveling on that to really make sure we understand it? And if we believe that our coordinator of emergency services really does all these extra things, these compensable factors, then absolutely we need to pay that role more.